Hey, girl.
Hey,
How you doing today?
I am wonderful. How are you?
I feel good, honestly. I really do.
Yes, I am so excited. I don't think you understand how excited I really am to just
Man.
be in your energy.
Oh, thank you. I read your post and I really, I don't know. I was telling my aunt about what you said, and I get messages like that all the time. And I was like, I don't know. I love this. Like it made me feel good, honestly, because I don't hear it often. And then I be trying to put things out there enough so that people could really see that we don't have to be stuck.
Mhm.
And for you to even just put that out there like that, it made me feel good, honestly.
Hey, you deserve it. Literally, it's like it's a breath of fresh air. Like every time I see your face, I see your
Aw.
pictures, I see your posts, I'm in your uncut thing. I'm like, oh my God, sis is doing it. And you wouldn't even know that you've been through so much just to see you continuing to push forward is such a blessing for me. So I am so honored to be sharing this space with you right now because you are really a role model and you are changing lives just with your energy and with your space.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That is my goal, and that's what I'm going to continue to do.
Awesome. You're so welcome.
So, could you introduce yourself to my audience and let them know how are you and what do you do and everything else?
Absolutely. So my name is Mylira and I appoint myself your confidence coach because honestly, when you are confident and you know that you are enough, you can literally accomplish everything. By trade, I am a social worker. So I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I serve as a therapist. But on the business side of things, I am a life coach. I'm an author, Reiki practitioner, and so much more. I literally become what you need to become the best version of yourself. I'm the owner of Immigrant Enterprises LLC. I started it after I had my rainbow daughter. And I looked at my daughter's face and I realized, hey, I lost two before her and I had to dedicate my life to becoming the best version of me so that trauma was not a part of her story. So I literally was like, hey, if I can serve as the bridge between somebody caterpillar and butterfly moment without them having to crash into butterfly, kind of how I did, that is literally what I want to do. So when people say, well, what do you do? What do you need me to do? You
I
know
know.
how there's a lot of times where you have these services and people say, I do this, this, this. Mylira, do what you need me to do for this moment. So that is who I am. I am all things mental health. I tell people that they can thrive after trauma. So whether that's sexual abuse and assault or losing a child, I have turned my pain into purpose. And my hope is that tonight I can spark somebody else and give them CPR for their goals, like my dad did when I was 17 years old and was almost about to end my life. So I am just here to vibe with you, get you where you're trying to go, and get you unstuck. And that's a little bit about me.
Girl, that's a lot about you, and it was all beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Like, seriously, just even for you to even explain and say things about yourself like that, it shows that you're comfortable saying that. Sometimes it's like we as women, we become stuck and we don't know how to say things that actually represent us. We're used to other people actually saying it and we feel good about it. But I love that you are comfortable with saying such highly things about yourself.
Oh, thank you. It took some time, sis. When people like, how you become a confidence coach? I had to practice. And even
Mhm.
today, as a therapist and being a confidence coach, I literally have to practice. I tell people I'm constantly talking to myself because it's easy to forget how much of a powerhouse you are
Yes.
because your story or what you are experiencing or your reality may look like lack or lack of success, but I have to literally pour into me. And if I don't pour into myself, I can't do it for nobody else. So it takes some practice, but I'm blessed to be able to be here today to even share who I am.
So, who were you as your younger self?
Oh, my younger self was lost. I was exposed to sexual experiences when I was 3 years old.
Wow.
I was raised in a family where the adults had their space and the kids had theirs, and that's how we played. So from 3 to 13, I really struggled with that style of play, and I lost maybe every single friendship I ever had because I didn't know what was exposed to me was wrong, which ended up ending one of my closest friendships. So I was when I say I was lost, I was lost. I ended up picking a bunch of masks. So when I was 13, I was like, okay, well, I can't live that lifestyle. But then I went to the other extreme. So then I allowed boys to do whatever they wanted to do. I felt like my body was all I had to give. I was always the plus size girl. You probably won't know it now if you see me today. But I was always the heaviest one. So I thought all I could do was give my body. And when I was 16 years old, I was diagnosed with major depression after being sexually assaulted. And I dealt highly with anxiety. And when I was 17, like I kind of shared before, I was about to end my own life. I couldn't handle it
Mm.
anymore. I was the girl that was raised by both parents, middle class. So when I was telling people like I'm struggling, they didn't believe it because they're like, she good, she got the resources, she's fine. But I wasn't. So 17, I was done. But my dad literally knocked down the door and saved my life. And at that moment, I remember looking in the mirror with everything in my hand and what I was about to do. And I said, I can't do this. Like God has given me this second chance to do something different. And that's what I ended up doing. And I realized I didn't have to be that straight A student no more. I didn't have to be the girl that was the section leader in marching band. I didn't have to be the prayer or the leader of all the ministries. Like I can just be Mylira. And I went on a journey to finding out who that person was because I never had the opportunity to really be her when I was younger. So that's kind of a little bit about me, my past, who I thought I was. And I didn't really start to find me until I was 17.
Wow. So, tell me about your testimony as far as getting sexual assaulted.
Absolutely. So when I was 13 years old, as I said, I was trying to get away from the Mylira, you are gay, basically. Back then, I didn't know what that was until
Mhm.
I was telling people my style of play, and then that term kept following me. Nothing's wrong with that. It just didn't feel good to me.
Mhm.
So when I was 13, I lost my virginity to my first boyfriend, and after me and him broke up, I was celibate for like a year and some change. I met a friend of mine. We went out on a little double date, and I thought nothing wrong was going to happen, but I thought wrong. And in that moment, I had a lot of guilt for years because I was like, well, if I would have just got in my friend's car and not spent that extra minute or moment to get whatever attention I thought I was going to get. I got attention, all right, but it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And for me, it was like a subsequent trauma. So the issue happened, and then a week later, I was with my family at a football game. And this young man told all his friends what I supposedly did, and his friends in front of my mother, my father, my brother, my aunts, my uncles came up and said, "Oh, you the girl who did X, Y, and Z to this person." So now I had to tell people what happened to me because they were like flabbergasted. Like, you did what? And I'm like, I did not do that. Like, this is really what happened. So like I said, for years I really blamed myself because there was a moment that I felt I could have did something differently, but I didn't. But what I tell people is when I said no, that was it. I don't care if I let him do
Right.
second base. After second base, when I said no, that's what it was supposed to have been. And it took me a long time to forgive myself because I really thought it was my fault, but it
No.
was not. It really wasn't.
No, it wasn't your fault at all.
Mm-mm.
So even going through that situation as far as being sexually assaulted, that's what led you to wanting to kill yourself.
It was a combination. So me and my mother are very, very similar. Her story is like a reflection of mine. But there are times where as parents you focus so much on I don't want to be like my parent that you become like your parent.
Yes, that's
So
true.
yeah, so when I got to college, I was young. I did everything early. So I got to college when I had just turned 17 years old, and me and my mother was bumping heads. So while I was in school, I was depressed, but when I came home, it was just for whatever reason we just did not get along. And I think a part of it is, and me and her kind of healing from some of this stuff as well, was the fact that I felt she wasn't there when my situation happened. And then to find out that she had a similar situation, it was like, where were you? So I think when I got to college, I had this animosity that I didn't even know was there. So we argued every single time I came home. I only stayed in the dorms maybe for one semester and I went back home. But that semester was hell. And eventually I just could not take it no more. I just felt like I couldn't do nothing right. I was like, man, I'm bringing in good grades. Like, I don't do nothing. I ain't party. I went to school and come back home or stay in the dorm room. So it was just this feeling of, is life ever going to get easy for me? And it just felt like things kept coming. And that really is what triggered that. Like, I felt like I was drowning, and that's really what depression is. The depression is where you are so stuck in what has happened that you can't see the light of what is going on. And in that moment, there was no light for me that I could see.
Wow.
But the light was birthed in that darkness. So I would not trade that moment to save my life, because my life had to get saved in order for me to see that my life was worth living. So I'm definitely blessed for the moment, but that's really what led to it.
Wow. Just even the fact of you going through that and your mother went through the same thing. Your mother didn't even know how to comfort you because somebody may not have comfort her.
Nope.
And she just did what she was taught and experienced before. So she like, okay, she may can handle it this way because this is how I handled it.
Absolutely. And it's one of those realities. So I have a 5-year-old daughter. And prior to my situation happening, I had no idea how much of a generational pattern this was. I'm not gonna call it a curse, it's a pattern. It was choices that was made, things was exposed. So what I did when my daughter turned 4 is I locked her hair, because every person in my family between age 3 and 5 experienced some type of sexual trauma of some sort, even if you didn't know it was trauma. So I locked her hair so I can lock in her innocence. So now it's
Mhm.
like I'm realizing my mom can only give me what she had. There's a gentleman named Wayne Dyer that talks about, if I say I need 12 oranges, I can't give you 12 oranges unless I go to the store and get it. So we can't
Right.
expect our loved ones to give us something that they didn't have. And in that moment, my mom didn't get the level of support that I desire from her. So I can expect her to do it. But now that we're both healing together, I can now provide some supports to my daughter and be there and be more cognizant and have those conversations, because now I know the signs. You
Yeah.
know, I know what having a mask look like, and being able to listen and things like that. So we're definitely blessed, and me and my mom's relationship now is amazing.
That's
And it's
good.
because I'm able to see her and she's able to see me, because as I'm healing, she's like, man, there's life outside of this. And now she's living her life. And it's such a beautiful thing.
That is beautiful. And you can help her heal, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And just her witnessing your strength and seeing how you are coming along on a daily basis, it could be motivating her too. And I think a lot of people really misuse that as far as them changing the habits that their parents had. They could transition that habit into a good habit and they could be teaching their parents. It's not always the parent teaching you, it's not always the adult teaching you. Sometimes that you being their child, you could be the one that create that change for them to see a bigger light to things.
Oh, absolutely. You're on it. I definitely talk about that a lot. Um, because here's the thing, parents are humans too. So
Yes.
I tell adult children, when you get a certain age, you got to take away the role of just mom, but look at mom as a person. And mom only did the best that she can. And now that I'm a mother, I get it. you know. So right now, another piece is when I started to tell people about my story, and heal from my story and all of those things, it was for me. It was for nobody else. And that's one thing I tell people. Like, I didn't share my story so that everybody else that was involved to be forced in the forefront and say, y'all heal. Like, I didn't do that.
Right.
But because I have done that, it's allowed for people who are ready and willing, like my mom, to come alongside and begin their healing journey. And not because I'm her daughter and she's my mom, but because she's a human being that wants to become the best version of herself. And it's something beautiful about a parent learning from their adult children. It's a beautiful thing when you kind of let go and just let it happen.
Yes, naturally at
Yeah.
that, and a lot of times time means everything. And a lot of people don't utilize their time wisely because we could be teaching each other something instead of utilizing our time with things that are negative.
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
and it causes us to basically heal when we utilize our time to things that's positive, that's willing to help us grow mentally. And then you can find ourselves separating from certain people because they're not at the mental state that you are at that time, and they don't understand you right now. You're not going to get along with them, but it's okay. You still have to keep going for you.
Oh, absolutely. You're on it. Like, listen, mental health is a real thing.
Yeah.
And you are only in control of your own mental health, but that is the beginning of everything. You don't see your reality, you see what you think. It's the narrative that's in your mind that actually play out in front of you.
Yes. Yes.
So what is happening is you create these narratives about the people that's in your life, and you're mad at the narrative you created, and it ain't got nothing to do with them.
Nothing at all. Like you on point. And I be trying to tell people this all the time. Like whatever you think is exactly what you're going to get. So you have to really step yourself beside that and actually see the reality. And a lot of people don't like to see the reality because they know the hurt feelings that they will start to feel during that process. And so they just rather, deal with the lies and
Mhm.
create something that really isn't even there.
No, it's look, we walking around mad at the fantasy we created in our minds.
Yep. And then you'll be wondering, like, then if you could ask them, what are you mad at? What don't you like? And they will circle around
Hmm.
everything but the actual reason, you know? And
Absolutely.
and that's like a mental thing. I don't even think a lot of us suffer from mental illness, technically.
So
You
here's the thing, like, okay, so the way I like to break it down is we cool talking about physical health. All right. I am down now over 135 pounds. I'm
well,
excited
yes,
about that. I work out every
yes,
day. I eat well, but we celebrate that. You know, if you exercise, you good, girl. If you eat a certain weight, you good, girl. You vegan, Presbyterian. We throw all these Aryans in the air so people can be excited. But as soon as someone say mental health, it's like, don't talk about it.
yep. I
No,
want to hear it.
like
I
your
want to
mental
hear it.
health is just as important as your physical health, because honestly, your physical health starts up here in your mind. And it's not even that is an illness, it is the fact that if there is something going on mentally, it goes back to this narrative. That's where a lot of these things are happening. There's a lot of people that's walking around with PTSD.
Yes.
But what we've done is make PTSD a military disorder. It is not a military disorder. Anything that you have dealt with that is traumatizing, and as a result, now you're dealing with depression and anxiety, honey, you're probably dealing with PTSD. Those nightmares, those flashbacks, you don't want to be around nobody, you watching over your shoulders, you avoiding situations, you avoiding talking to family members, so now your family and your kids ain't got a relationship. All of these things are direct correlation to that mental health. But what we've done is connect the stigma to it. And there's no reason for that stigma. I tell my clients all the time in therapy, if I didn't have to diagnose them, I wouldn't. I hate it because I feel like it puts that label there. But I'm sorry,
Yeah.
in order for your insurance to pay it, I got to put something there. That's all it's for. It's not a definer. That's why I say, look, I was diagnosed with major depression. but it didn't stop me from living. Like, that's just one
Mhm.
piece of me. So when we can think about it in that way, we won't be as fearful to address our mental health. We won't need a whole mental health awareness month in the month of May if people looked at their mental health like their physical health, because it all correlates together.
Yes, it does. It correlates heavy because if you can maintain your physical health, you should be able to maintain your actual mental health so that you could deal with yourself spiritually and also emotionally, because a lot of people don't know that mental actually triggers the things that create you to go into an emotional standpoint, and that what creates the depression that you're dealing with on a daily basis, and then your mind get the going and you will think
Mm-hmm.
of suicide, you would think of negative things, or you would think of hurting somebody else because you are hurt too.
Girl, let me find out you a therapist on here. Yes. So I get excited with this. So if I talk a
I do
lot, it's
too. I do
okay.
too.
This is my thing. But here's the thing. You have situations that happens. That interpretation of that situation is your thoughts. Your
Mhm.
thought then triggers that experience. That experience is not the behavior or the situation. We get it wrong. The experience is that emotion and that feeling. However, what has happened is growing up, we're told that the only feeling we supposed to have is happy. Not that somebody verbalized that, but if your kid have a temper tantrum, the first thing you want to do is change it. If they sad and they're crying, the first thing you want to do is go, "Oh, what's wrong with you,
Yeah.
baby?" So the thought you have in your mind is, if I am not happy, I need to change it. So then we have these experiences in life that we don't allow ourselves to say, this is what I'm experiencing. So then we respond to it with our behavior, which is for two reasons. Your behavior is to keep something going or to stop it from happening.
Mhm.
So then we're in this non-ending cycle, and it all starts with your mind. I call it the six dimensions of life. So you have your spiritual wellness, your mental wellness, emotional wellness, physical wellness, social, and then your cash flow. I add cash flow because you got to make money. Okay. But if any of those are out of whack and not in balance, I don't care how much you focus on your physical health. If this meat suit is only for show and tell, guess what? That cup you put all that water in got a little hole. So you're worrying about why
Mhm.
everybody else is actually benefiting from your purpose, is because you're flowing your purpose out to them, but you're doing it for show, so you ain't getting nothing from
Exactly. Exactly. You're not getting absolutely nothing. And I think that's where people sell themselves short, because we're always pouring into other people that can't pour into us.
it.
So that means we have to transition and be around people that are able to hold us accountable and tell us, like, look, you need to change your mindset into something a lot more positive so someone can help you help others.
Mm-hmm. And mindset's a huge thing. It's a thing that everybody is throwing out there. You hear manifestation, you hear mindset, you hear affirmations, you hear all these things. But the one thing that I want to tell people is, like, don't let that negate what your reality is.
Yes.
Before you can do mindset work, you got to address what's happening in your reality so you can see what mindset you need to have. And people mindset is not healthy is because we are looking at everything else externally, but we don't actually deal with our own
Mhm.
mess.
Internally. Yes. Because when we don't deal with, like, we could do affirmations, we could do whatever, shadow work, manifestation, different things that people do for their higher power. Now, when you're doing this, are you really believing it for you to be able to receive it? Are you really feeling this, or you're just doing it just because you want to tell people, hey, I'm doing this? It's a way that you really have to know exactly what you're doing mentally, physically, and emotionally, because it's not going to help you. It's going to hinder you a lot more than what you're feeling right now currently. But a lot of people do not want to face the reality of it because it's painful in there. So you got to deal with the core from your childhood all the way up. And you really, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of experiences that you're going to be dealing with, even if it's the smallest thing. And people don't want to face that. They just rather go out and just say, "Yay, I'm okay," when you're not.
Mm-hmm. And that's where I tell people, so I've been on multiple different journeys over the last 5 years. So after I lost my first two children, me and my husband went on like these spiritual journeys. Like you name it, I did it. But what I'm blessed with is now that I'm kind of settled and I know, look, my creator is everything. He orchestrates what I do. But I take all those different pieces. But the one thing that I learned is that this journey is your own, is what you want it to look like. And there's a lot of people that are healing, but they're healing the way that somebody else did it. So
Yeah.
that's why when people ask me, well, Mylira, what services do you provide? Sometimes it sounds vague because it's what you need. I don't want you to be a mini Mylira. That's even like with any of my books that I've written. They're all interactive guides so that you can figure out what you want to do. Because if I sit here and I tell you how to do it, you're going to go out and do it and be like, well, that didn't work for me. No dip, Sherlock Holmes, because your journey is your own journey.
Yes.
But everybody's pushing this shadow work and candles and okay, well, what is all that for? If the intent is not behind it, if your intent is just because sis told you to do it, then sis, guess what? You only going to go as far as where she went. But
Yeah.
if your intent is to become the best version of you, if your intent is to actually put work into your faith, I've been telling people, we always say faith without works is dead. That works part is actually another word of saying belief. You can pray as much as you want to, but if you don't believe that this is going to come to pass, it don't matter. If you don't believe that you deserve it, it don't matter. If you don't know that you're enough, which is why I tell people like you are enough to do this, none of that is going to matter. So mindset literally has to start with you. And then when you believe you deserve it, then you attract the people that you need in this moment. You won't have to chase nobody. You'll just have it. Like, I still don't know how in the world me and you got connected, but
I don't either.
when I put it in the atmosphere, I connected with you.
Yes.
So it really is a beautiful thing when you really let go and you allow yourself to experience the life that's already been written. We say all these scriptures that he knows the plans he has for us, but then we actually go and do all these vision boards and things like that.
Yeah.
Like, no, like let him know the plan, live it out, enjoy it, take the
Yeah.
passenger seat for a moment, and
Yeah.
that's how mindset begins to change.
Yes, because we're applying pressure to ourselves, and we're adding what's already there, and then we're adding more stuff to it that's not even supposed to be there yet. You know? And then as far as like believing it, people don't realize the tongue is powerful. The mind is powerful. So if you say I want to basically I want to lose weight, basically,
Mm-hmm.
so are you going to physically lose weight? And are you going to mentally apply yourself to be able to lose weight? And is that what you're going to do? Because that's how I felt even when I wanted to work out and things like that. It's mental. I will make excuses. I'll do any and everything just to know that I'm not going to work out for real. you know, it's just the excuses we make, but it's a mental thing to a point we really could apply ourselves to it, but we really have to believe it to be able to do it and know that you can do it.
Girl, it's so powerful. It's one of those things where that's why addressing your mental health is so important, because if you have any type of mental blockages, then you can't create a positive mindset.
No,
Like,
you
that
can't.
is the reality. But again, we're so fearful of someone saying you got depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia. We get fearful of these labels. But if we don't deal with it, if you don't go to therapy, like I'm a whole therapist looking for a therapist. Like,
Yeah, you got to though.
yep.
You got to. You be messing around here, you be messed up too.
Absolutely. But that's the thing. Like, people have to understand it's deeper than just someone trying to push you to go talk to a stranger or push you to be a life coach. And no, it is legit like you want the tools to put in your toolbox. So when life continues to happen, you know where to go from here. And
Mhm.
we don't do enough of that conversation. It's still, again, it still is that stigma. Or matter of fact, I was watching the new Jamie Foxx show on Netflix. My daughter loved Jamie Foxx, but the first episode, him and his daughter was having some conflict or something, and somebody told them, like, maybe you want to go to therapy. And they said, well, black people don't go to therapy. So here I got my 5-year-old is walking around repeating that for a whole hour, to eventually I'm just like, sweetheart, please don't say that. That's not true. We do go to therapy. Mama's a therapist. Like, I had to break that down. And even though I know they were joking,
Yeah.
you have this 5-year-old girl that now hears this programming that black people don't go to therapy, which is not true.
Yeah. And I think it's really them trying to send a message.
Mm-hmm.
But they should have stretched the message so people could gain an understanding on what they're trying to really say, because they will interpret it wrong, just like how your daughter just did.
And I was like, I said, but babe, listen, you hear them saying that, but they're seeing a therapist. And she was like, no, they're not. They just, so it's kind of one of those things where it's like, even as children, and I bring it up to say, with everything I'm learning, it starts with your childhood. And as parents, we are parent portals, and it's our responsibility to literally grow and develop that kid. So even when it comes to mental health, like, now I have like journals and stuff I do with my daughter. We have like a little anger management thing.
That's
So if she
nice.
angry, we do that. At night we have a mommy and daughter journal. Like, I am so big on her mental health now, because I don't want her have to reprogram years of bad programming when she gets my age. And it's not me putting pressure on myself. It's just me making sure I'm good enough so I can model that to her. So then she can model that to the generations to come, and so forth and so on. But it's so important.
Yes, it's definitely important. I want to go back as far as you saying that you lost two of your babies.
Mm-hmm.
What was your mental state of mind like when you even had that experience, not once but twice?
Um, in the beginning, I was shocked. Nobody in my family talked about miscarriages at all. So in my mind, me and my husband, we finally was like, yo, we've been married for almost 2 years. I think we're ready to have a family. You try to have a baby, get pregnant. I got excited. I made a post that baby green bean was on its way. And I remember my mom was like, Mylira, why'd you tell everybody? And in my mind, I'm like, because I'm pregnant. What you mean? Like 9 months from now, we're going to have a little baby green bean. And that is when she began to educate me. So before I even experienced what I did, she was like, well, in reality, some moms don't make it past this time. And she started talking about the critical time of pregnancy. And in my mind, I'm like, this would have been beneficial before we even tried to start. And then it just so happened when we went to go get checked in for our 12-week checkup, the baby had stopped developing, but there was still a sac. So it's called a miscarriage, because that's when the baby's still there, but the body still feels like you're pregnant, so it doesn't get rid of the baby. So I
Baby.
had to make a choice to either let it pass by itself, to get a DNC, or have what they call an abortion pill. And I had to make the choice right there on the spot. So here I am, finding out that they can't find a heartbeat for my baby. They're looking at me and my husband. They're like, we need to hear your option now. I had like 5 minutes to sit with my husband and figure it out. So I decided to have a DNC. I remember walking out of the office feeling really, really numb. We got to the light, and then I just broke down because I was just like, I don't understand what this means. Like, what do you mean the baby's not there? Like, this wasn't something that was talked about in my family or anybody around me. So I had the DNC, but what ended up happening is I don't know all the details. I can just tell you what I experienced in my body. That baby was not taken out. So a month later, I'm on vacation with my family, and I finally said my final farewell to my baby. Um, and I was in a space that didn't have like the best hospital, because we was like in one of those little small island type areas.
Okay.
So it was a very traumatic experience. But what I did was I started to tell my story. And when I started to tell my story, I realized how many other women experienced what I did, but they felt the same way I did. Like, it only happened to me. Like, this is a brand new thing. So I had women inboxing me like, Mylira, I experienced 5 miscarriages. Oh, Mylira, I had a miscarriage, or I had a stillborn birth, or things like that. So what ended up happening was I ended up coining these healing through my storytelling. Me being able to tell people like, this is what happened to me, and creating a safe space for people. And then shortly after, we got pregnant again with our second child. There was no attachment to that child whatsoever. It didn't even last past like 6 weeks.
Mhm.
So for me, I wasn't attached. But what really was the stretcher was when I got pregnant with my daughter. I was in denial. My husband kept saying, like, babe, you're pregnant. I'm like, no, I'm not. He was like, I am literally craving Fantas. You're pregnant. I'm like, whatever you say, I don't care. And I don't think it got real for me until about 20 weeks with my daughter, because I just knew
Wow.
that something was going to go. But the one thing that I realize now is, the way I see it is, as I'm entering Earth, God was like, I got one more task for you. Pick your children. And I know that I picked my children, even my 2 angels and the 2 I got now,
Mhm.
before I entered this earth. So those 2 souls could not be flesh, because I needed them more as a spirit, and their brother and their sister needed them as a guide. And that's really what gets me to keep pushing. I tell my children about them. I say, hey, you would have had a big sister or brother named Mishael. And then my daughter would be like, well, mommy, why didn't y'all name the second baby? And I was like, well, that baby wasn't alive long enough. So that's the kind of things that I experienced. I was really sad. I was kind of angry for a little period of time, but I realized now it just was not the right timing. It just wasn't. But that takes time.
Yes.
And I still have moments where it hits me, and I'm like, man, I wonder what Mishael would look like. I wonder, because they would have been 6. Like, I wonder that, but I'm still blessed, because I definitely know that it allowed for me to be prepared for my children that I have now here on earth, a little bit better.
That's good because that takes a lot out of you, but it's good that you actually communicate with your kids about it because that's therapeutic for you too and for them to actually know. As far as you realizing that other women suffer from that, have you been an advocate for it to continue to help women?
Absolutely. So there's actually an organization that's called Sales. And I would grab their calendar, but I might look crazy on camera. But so we end up doing a calendar this year of other people that have experienced stillbirths or miscarriages, or a child that passed away in less than a year. And what we did was get the money so that they can donate like angel bears and help for the burials and cremations for moms who experience the same thing. And also, I do a lot of speaking at those events to share my story, because that's the one piece of it, is being able to share openly and not feel like there's something wrong with you. And I found so much empowerment in that. And then
Mhm.
coming up soon as well, in the end of the year, I'll be speaking at another organization that's new in this area, that will be doing the same thing and actually help with burial and cremation. It's really cool to see that people are willing to share their story. And there's a lot of resources. Like, when I lost my children, I didn't have no resources. My doctor didn't say
Right.
you can go to this organization or that organization. But now we got some organizations that are like, oh no, when this happened, call me, and they show up and they help. So it definitely is a blessing. I haven't necessarily done something like on my own, but I have a lot of people that I've been able to touch and work with on that, and just continue to just show them, like, you're still a mom, sis. Like, that's what I
Mhm.
tell people. Like, just because they may not be here in the flesh, like, you're still a mom, you're still a dad. It's just, you're never going to forget that soul. It's just understanding that that energy still is alive. It's just not flesh. And when you kind of can shift that, that has been the blessing for me so far.
And that's so good because it helps you just heal from it. Still having that connection there. A lot of people don't understand, even though a person is gone, you can still have that connection. And it's so funny that you were saying that because, like, with my mom being gone, I still have the connection with her as though I'm still in her womb.
Mhm.
And a lot of people really don't understand that when I actually say it, but it's the truth. It's like it never leaves. It's that connection is always there spiritually and with from the souls connected because that's my mom. I'm still
Mhm.
connected to her. I came from her. So just even feeling that, it's like it's peaceful. It brings peace to me, honestly.
And it's a beautiful thing. Like I tell people, we grieve the meat suit that's no longer there. We miss the hugs, we miss the phone calls. We All of that is good, but that soul is still there. So
Hmm.
when you can hold on to that energy, like I can be talking to my mom and people might think I'm like in another realm now, but I can be talking to my mom and I'll see like different color specks, and now I know, okay, oh, that's that person or that's that person. And people may think I'm crazy, but I'm like, no, like, mom, that's my grandma. That's your grandma. And they have different colors. And I'm like, as crazy as that sound to some people, their energy don't die, just that meat
No,
suit.
no. It don't die at all, and that's why they are our ancestors.
Yes.
Yes, for sure. So tell me about the different books that you have out. I see that you have Free Thyself. It's a guide of healing for survivors of sexual abuse and assault. So let's start with that one.
Absolutely. So that book was really written because I finally realized that I was never going to get that person to say I'm sorry. And I realized that I was walking around with so much guilt that I was anchoring me. I was anchoring myself in misery. And I was upset because nobody else around me was miserable.
Wow.
But it was me. It was me that couldn't let it go. So I was just like, man, I gotta get this out. Like, I have to just be free. I gotta break free from this. So as I kind of went through the steps, I was like, well, other people can be helped with that. But the one thing that I love about this book is that I have my letter to survivors. I am going to read it real quick. It's not very long.
That's okay. Yeah.
Because a lot of us don't get that apology. A lot of people are waiting for that I'm sorry in order to forgive. But there's this therapist that's in my local area named Dr. Barbie. She said forgiveness is a choice. Healing is the journey.
True.
So a lot of us is waiting for somebody else for us to choose to
But it
forgive.
never be there.
Mm-mm.
But you gotta know how to move forward, forgive, and you will never forget. But it's just about having that freedom from yourself.
Absolutely. So my hope is that this letter gives somebody that's watching tonight the permission to move forward. Dear survivor, you are more than enough. Your life's experiences do not define who you are, but cultivated the very essence of you. If you never received an apology from the person who victimized you, I take the time out to send a heartfelt apology on their behalf because you deserve to be free from the entrapment of their egregious actions. I apologize for the years of pain you have endured as a result of that moment of stolen innocence. You will never get back. I apologize for all of the decisions and actions you made that were more detrimental to your well being or that of others as a result of trying to find normalcy again. I apologize to you for the years you have spent in bondage trying to figure out what you did to attract such experiences. I apologize to you for the years of self love you missed out on because the message you kept hearing was you did not deserve love. Please know you were only a victim in the moment of abuse. But as I read this to you, my friend, you are a survivor. Just like survivors of a major illness get celebrated when they go into remission, I celebrate you today because you are no longer a victim. You are the best you there is, and you are free. Walk in your freedom, peace, love, and light.
That is beautiful.
Thank you.
Like it really is. And I hope the listeners, I hope you know someone that's going through it, or even if you going through it, play it back sometimes on this video for you to continue to hear it, and also purchase the book from her as well.
Yes.
That is amazing. So tell me a little bit about Speak Out, a survivor's anthology.
Okay, so it was pretty cool. Social media is great with connecting like-minded people when you use it right.
Yes.
So I had some ladies that have experienced sexual assault and abuse as well as domestic violence. And we all brought together some stories. Some was nonfiction, some fictional. So it's like a cool read because you get a balance of it all. But the main purpose was for me to really get my story out there, and I broke it down line by line of
Mhm.
what my experience was when I was sexually assaulted. I walked through my thoughts. I walked through kind of the pain that I felt, and I also walked through the healing process and what that looked like and what freedom looks like. Like I always make sure, yeah, I'm gonna tell you the ugly, but I'm also gonna tell you how it became beautiful. And that's really what that project was all about, was women feeling empowered to speak out. Like we have this Me Too movement, which is excellent. I love it.
Yes.
But there was really no resources provided after survivors started to say, Me Too. Well, what I'm supposed to do
Mhm.
after this, sis? So that's really what this was, for that people can begin to start that speaking out, and then have a safe environment for us to kind of uplift each other and push each other to continue to just strive for our best selves.
That is, a lot of us, we don't try hard enough, or we don't have that direction to actually strive for our better self.
Mm-hmm.
When it's there, everyone has the opportunity to be their better self. It's just we are misguided in so many ways, yet you have to be willing to be guided and understand that a person is able here to help you reach that next level in your life, and that creates you to feel comfortable with yourself.
And honestly, that's like one of the reasons why I am who I am today, is because I wanted people to know, you know what, Mylira is just not a therapist that went to school and got all these credentials behind her name, but she's had life experiences that she had to overcome so that she can help someone. Which is why I'm grateful that I'm able to marry what I know as a therapist and then what I do as a coach as well, with what I provide people. Because everybody needs somebody. Like I always tell people, if the creator, unless he has one of the wickedest sense of humors, but if we were supposed to do this journey on our own, we could have been on our own planets and universe, but we were not. We were born into families. We have people around us. So we have to be open minded to letting those people that are here to help us to come to our table and support us. And I'm hoping that people that are watching this feel like they have someone in their corner to support them. That they have someone that knows what it feels like to be in their shoes. I might not experience exactly what you have, but I know what that pain feels like. I know what that
Yeah.
darkness looks like. And I want to be able to show you that there is light at the end of the tunnel. And even if dark moments come up, you can always find your way back.
Yes, that is so true. And you have to really want to find your way. You
I
really
did.
do. And it's hard. Like I've been in I had my fair share of darkness. I even had it just even during like Mother's Day. Like I'm like, okay, I'm gonna feel all right. I'm gonna feel okay. Then it's like, I feel like I'm in a dark space. I wasn't motivated to do absolutely nothing. Just during that time, again, I'm over here, I'm trying to move, but I'm dealing with moving from a place where me and my husband were. And it's like another emotional thing. And then my mom used to be my next door. So that was another emotional thing. So it's like juggling between the two, but it's like I still had to find my purpose. I still had to find my reason. I still had to find like you still able to give yourself life even though you lost lives, but you technically didn't lose the lives because they are spiritually here with you.
Absolutely. And it's one of those things where I tell people, give yourself permission to feel what you feel. Like, the one problem that we have is that we avoid how we really feel.
Yes.
So, when there's any life changes, even if it's not even a physical death of a person, it can be a change of a job. It can be
Yeah.
a change of a stage in life. Like, you go from being you and your spouse to you, your spouse, and some kids. That's a transition. We are constantly grieving those transitions, but we don't give ourselves the opportunity to feel it. So sit with it, feel it, and then you can get to that point where it's like, okay, let me look at my purpose. I felt that, but let me go ahead and get back on track. And there's
Mm-hmm.
power in that. It's power in, like, there's some days where I tell people, like, Mylira's depressed today.
Mm-hmm.
And I get power from that because I'm able to put words to what I feel. So
Yep.
then now I can be real with myself and be like, okay, well, why are you depressed? And then I can really deal with it. But if I say, oh, no, I'm fine, I'm good, I'm not going to deal
Yeah.
with anything, and nothing's going to come from that. So I'm glad to hear that you're able to be transparent with yourself so that you can sit down and say, okay, let me get you back together.
Yes.
What's my purpose?
Yes. Transparency actually helps me keep going. And it also helps me because I know if I'm helping one person, I'm good.
Okay.
Yes, I'm good.
I love
So, so you have one more book that I had saw. It's The Art of Just Being Me, the interactive guide of finding the courage to just basically do you.
Yes, just be you, man. That was actually my very first book. I wrote it in one night during insomnia. Sitting
Wow.
there trying to get my daughter to sleep. I was a breastfeeding mom, but I was one of those ones where the kid is right next to you. You roll over, here you go, and then you roll back over. And then just this one night, I just could not go back to sleep because I just had to get out how I got to where I was. People kept asking me, well, Mylira, we hear you share your story, but, like, how do you still smile? Like, how are you having joy? How are you running around and speaking and doing all these great things? Like, how are you being a therapist, but that is your story? And I got tired of that. I was like, not that there's nothing special about me. That's not what I mean. But it was like, you can do this if you just realize that your story is your own. Like, my story is mine. I have to own that. It's nobody else's. So I created it as an interactive guide because all I do is give you a little blurb of what I did, but then I ask you open-ended questions so you can think about, well, what's your strengths, sis? What makes you different? What's your weaknesses? Because your weaknesses is actually what makes room for you to connect. There's so much bike biting, especially when it comes to entrepreneurship. Yeah, I said it. Because we are all in competition instead of us looking that, oh, if I have a weakness, this person have a strength to cover it, and vice versa. We both can eat. So that is really what this book is for, so that people can understand that you have your own unique space in this world, that you don't have to be in competition with nobody else. Like, everybody else is taken, just be you. But you
Mm-hmm.
got to learn that art because we've been so programmed to be a specific thing. So it's like deprogramming you so that you can be reprogrammed to really just be yourself.
Girl. And a person being themselves is very difficult. It's hard because you will find people still having a mental state of mind of being in middle school and high school and they 40 and 50 years old,
Mm.
maybe even in their 30s.
And
you
it's
know,
called trauma age. So here's what trauma does. When trauma happens to you, you stop aging at that moment.
that's true.
And then we don't deal with it. So then you layer the new traumas and the new traumas and the new traumas. And then we expect for adults to be adults, but they can't because they're still a kid where nobody showed up for them when they experienced their trauma. Because we do a lot of suck it up, or we throw out words like, oh, you just be resilient. Nah, bro,
Mm-hmm.
resiliency was a cop out for y'all ain't got to show up for nobody. That's what that
Mm-hmm.
is. So
Yeah.
when you're able to actually address that, you begin to see people differently. So like there's a lot of times I'll have people that be like, Mylira, how do you listen to people's problems all day long? And I'm like, because they're not problems.
Mm-hmm.
It's their life. And now that they got their life out, I'm be like, okay, so that happened. Where are we gonna go now?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it's not even them having problems or just you listening to it. It's just the fact that you have mastered of not taking on people's spirits, and you know how to hold the blockage of that and serve your purpose.
Yes, and that takes work. It really does.
Yeah.
Because when you are empathic and you are someone that I generally like, literally, I just love people. I am just one of those people that I don't care if I just know you for 1 minute. I'm gonna give you love. Um, and it can be very hard because I desire the best for every person. But the one thing I had to remind myself is just like I had to choose to heal and go on my own journey, I have to grant that person permission to do the same thing for themselves. So when you are in the space with me, I'm only going to go as far as you're ready to go.
Yes. That is so true. And that's exactly where you're gonna stay too, if that's not how far you want to go.
Yeah.
For sure. So in closing, could you give us some encouraging advice just for women and men?
Oh, absolutely. One, I want you to know that you are enough. There is nothing that you can do to make what is yours come to you any
Right.
faster.
Oof. Yes.
We live in a space, and I'll be quick with this. We live in a time where everybody is getting tarot card readings, and before anybody say something, I do all this stuff, so I'm not bashing nobody. So we get tarot card readings, astrology readings, we talk to prophets, pastors, all that. We want everybody to tell us what our future has to hold. So then when that person say, oh, you're meant to be a millionaire, then what we do is put all our energy into becoming a millionaire, but God is the only one that knows the timing. So are you going
Yeah.
to spend 40 years when that millionaire status may not be till 40 years from now? Or are you going to be present? You
Yeah.
are valuable now with what you have. So be in that.
Yes. But even with people getting the spiritual advice of whoever their higher power is, it's still your job to complete what you need to do for yourself.
Say it again, sis.
For real. And people want to put all the work and all the blame into whoever their higher power is when things don't work for them. It's because you still can't do what you want to do. You need to do exactly what you're trying to pray for, what you're trying to put out there to the universe of something that you want to do. You got to do the work.
Mm-hmm. And here's the thing. It's a beautiful young lady. Her name is Tony Jones. And she says, we are human beings and not human doers. We've mastered the doing part, but we're missing the being part to just allow for our creator to give us his heart's desires. Because
Yeah,
his plan is going to blow us away. But because we have going into a space where we feel like we're in control, I need to do this, I need to do that, then we lose that. And that's come to
yeah.
like my second point. Don't be afraid to just be. It's the moments where you don't do nothing where you get the most blessings.
You know what? You're right about that. And then even when people don't understand that you may be upset about a person removing themselves from your life, but you are blessed with that. You find your blessings coming because that person was blocking that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes. And your season is coming. Like I'm talking
Oh,
to myself when I say that as well. Like we everything has a time limit.
yes,
There's
it
a
does.
season to everything. So don't look at somebody in their winning season and think, woe is me. That's where the whole
Mhm.
art of just being me really come in at. Like take the time out to ask yourself, okay, what lesson can I learn in this moment? Because there's no losses in life, just lessons. And if
No.
you actually sit down and learn from it, I'm telling you, even the most ugliest situation is going to turn out looking like a lotus
Something so
flower.
amazing. Yes. something so amazing, and you be like, "Dang, did that just
Yep.
happen?" Yes. Well, thank you so much. I enjoyed our conversation.
Oh, thank you as well. And I literally am just so grateful. Your energy and your spirit is amazing. Know that people see you.
Thank
People
you.
are being changed and transformed by you and your platform. So please keep it up because we all need it. And I'm really hoping that people begin to see that their life matters just
Yes,
by you showing up.
yes, and it does matter, and that is my whole goal of it all.
Oh, you're so amazing.
Yes. Well, make sure we keep in touch, girl.
Oh, I will. I will. And if anybody would like to connect with me, I am not untouchable. So if you just friend me on Facebook, I'm good with that. Or if you want to know more about M Green Enterprises, I'm cool with that. If you want some of the books, Amazon, I'm the only Mylira Green there is, so you should be able to find it. But outside of that, from my heart to you guys, for real, you deserve the breath that is in your body. You do.
Mhm.
So allow me to choose life for you in the moment where sometimes death may seem more applicable because someone needs you in this world. And I want to be that person to give you CPR to keep you going.
Yes, definitely. And guys, make sure you check out the comments. Her link is there straight to her website. And even if you gotta contact me to get in touch with her, I will definitely give you the information.
Oh, awesome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you as well, Queen.
All right. Good night, Queen.
Good night.